A very warm welcome to Audit and Assurance with PK. Before we start today's session, I need to tell that all of you are doing really good job, doing a great job. Keep trusting the process. We are just few steps away from the one which we are going to reach. Okay, so keep trusting the process and just focus on the process alone. Everything will fall into place. Now, coming back to our session today, let's say you are an auditor, okay, and you are auditing a company named PK Limited. Mm. And of course, all of you would have learned in your company accounts, also in your, let's say, in the Schedule 3 also, that financials has a lot of areas, right? Mm. We have, let's say, share capital, we have PPE, we have cash and cash equivalents. Now tell me whether all these areas require the same level of attention when you're gonna audit. Let's say you have cash and cash equivalents, and in cash and cash equivalents, let's say once again you're having bank balances in two of the let's say in bank. In that case, the audit procedure here is going to be simple, right? You're going to have BRS number one. Hmm? We'll get the external confirmation from bank. External confirmation, which is say SA 505. Yes. Hmm? So we'll get the external confirmation from bank. So does the amount of attention that as auditors we are going to give here will be equal as of, let's say, revenue, or on determining the amount of contingent liability? Hmm. Will the same attention be given at each and every place, or whether as auditors we need to give significant attention to certain areas since it has, let's say, higher ROMM, or it has significant judgment, or it is a significant event or transaction that occurred only during the year? Hmm. Of course, each and every area differs, right? So now here's the question. Should the users of the financial statements know that which areas were most challenging for the auditor, or which were most significant to the auditor when the audit was being performed? Yes, right. So that is exactly why key audit matter was introduced. Okay. So that's exactly the reason why we have key audit matter. Key audit matter SA 701. And today we are going to be in detail about key audit matter in today's session. Okay. And key audit matter is not like there's a mistake or we are qualifying opinion. It's nothing as such, but it's rather the auditor conveying through the audit report that these are the areas which require our significant attention, and these are the areas which was significant to us as auditors, and so we are conveying this to you, right? And coming to the definition of key audit matters per SA 701, it just says that key audit matters are those in auditor's professional judgment. Now tell me, will is there any hard and fast rule that this matter is a significant matter? So we need to tell that this is a KAM, or not, there's nothing as such, right? It's based on auditor's professional judgment, which the auditors will choose, and they consider that it is the most significant in our audit. Okay. And when we say significant in our audit, of course, you will need to connect that. As per SA 260, we communicate all the significant matters to TCWG, right? So, what the auditors will do is, from these significant matters, auditors will filter, okay, and select those matters which are most significant. And these will be communicated as KAM, which is key audit matter. So, what is key audit matters? Are those matters in auditor's professional judgment that users should know because it is most significant in the audit. Hmm. And these matters are selected from the matters communicated with TCWG because there is a filtering process here. Not all the significant matters that has been communicated with TCWG will be included in the audit report as KAM. Can you move forward? Yep. So we are done with the definition. I hope everyone is clear until now. And now coming to the objective, because as we all know, each and every standard has an objective, right? So as per AC 701, the objective is very, very easy. You just need to determine which are the matters are CAM. So what are we doing? Number one, we are determining CAM. And is it enough if we just determine? We also need to report an audit report, right? So that's what we are going to do here. And we are communicating these matters by describing them in audit report. Okay, so the objective is to determine CAM. And then secondly, we are going to communicate these matters in our audit report. Okay, now for sure, you will have a question as to like we have also discussed already that the users of financial statements should know that these are the areas which were more significant to the auditors in their audit. But why should the users know? Mm, why should the users know? Yes, because it enhances the communicative value. It also includes transparency because we're being transparent as auditors, we are being transparent and informing the users of the FS that these are the areas that were more significant in our audit. So we are informing you, we are being transparent, right? And hence it is also helping the users to understand which were the areas that were more significant to the auditor, right? And which included judgment, significant judgment by management. And lastly, it also helps the entity understanding. Okay, so up to now, we have seen what is key audit matter. So key audit matter, it's so simple because you've understood it logically that those matters that are in auditor's professional judgment are more significant in audit, right? And these matters are selected from those matters communicated with TCWG. So there will always and always be a filtering process here, right? And the objective is to determine those matters which are can, and we are also included audit report. Yes. And now coming to the purpose, it's so simple that we are just going to inform the users of the FS. So as auditors, we are being transparent. Since we are being transparent, it also increases the communicating value of the audit report. Yes. And more specifically, it is also helping the users to understand that these are the areas that as auditors, it was more significant to us. Okay. And these are the areas which involve management significant judgment. And these are the areas which could help us to understand the entity better. Okay, can you move forward? Is there any doubt? Mm, okay, so now tell me whether key audit matter is applicable for all entities audit. Mm, is it applicable for each and every entity? Or let me tell you, it is mandatory for listed entities. Mm, okay, it is mandatory for listed entities audit. They should include key audit matter in their audit report. And for other entities, it depends on the circumstances where auditors, as we are going to decide, okay, we can communicate to the users of FS through CAM. Okay. And in case if it is going to be required by law and regulation. Now I have this question. You can ping in the comments also. Now tell me, of course, we understand that the listed entities audit, it is mandatory, but why is it, why it is mandatory for listed entities audit? It could have been optional for listed entities also, right? Why this has been made mandatory? Hmm, yes, that's true. It's because it is involving the public's money. Okay. And the public as invested, or they are gonna invest based on the financials, based on the audit report, right? So now coming here, since it involves the public and money and it also includes the public interest, for listed entities, it is very, very mandatory. right? And now coming to another one thing which I hope that all of you would remember, because we have already learned AC 700, right? Now tell me, for which type of opinion, okay? For which type of opinion key audit matter should not be included? For which type of opinion? Perfect. It's a disclaimer of opinion. And why? Hmm? Why? Because in disclaimer of opinion, we are saying that we are not providing opinion since we didn't have sufficient data, right? We are not able to provide opinion. And now coming here in key audit matter, we are saying that these are the matters that are most significant to the audit of FS. And in disclaimer of opinion, we were not able to express an opinion because we didn't perform audit only due to insufficient information or insufficient data. Hmm? So that's the reason why for disclaimer of opinion, key audit matter is not applicable. Okay. So up to now, just a quick recap. What are key audit matters? Those are, in auditor's professional judgment, are essential to be included in audit report. Yes, to be included in audit report. Yep, tell me. Are these matters in auditor's professional judgment that are most significant in the audit of current period, of course. And we are also selecting these matters only from TCWG, number two. And what is the objective? We have to determine which are the matters or key audit matters. And we are also going to include them, describe them in our audit report. What is the purpose? It is going to increase the communicating value of the audit report because we are going to be transparent, and it also helps users to understand the most significant areas for audit for the auditor and the significant judgments made by the management. And lastly, to understand the entity. Good. And now coming to the applicability, it is applicable for listed entities audit, and then it is mandatory. Okay, here it is mandatory for listed entities audit. And number two, for other entities, wherever the auditor feels okay, it is essential to communicate key audit matter, he can do so based on the circumstances. And thirdly, it is required by law and regulation. And very important thing is that for disclaimer of opinion, we will never ever include key audit matter, because in disclaimer of opinion, we are not providing any opinion at all that the financials is providing a true and fair view, or it's not providing a true and fair view, because we were not able to perform audit due to insufficient information, right? So we can't say that these are the matters that were more significant in our audit, which makes it contradictory, and hence we will not include key audit matters in disclaimer of opinion. Can you move forward? So we saw this, right? What were the objective? Number one is we will determine KAM, and number two is we are going to describe them in the audit report, right? So now we are going to discuss about each of these objectives. And number one, we are going to deal with determination of KAM. Okay. So I've already said this. From which matters are the KAM is being determined? Is from those matters that are communicated to TCWG SA 260. Perfect. So from these matters, we are going to determine which are most significant. Right? So in determining which are all most significant, there are three important things which shall be taken into account. Okay. Number one is higher Roman or significant risk, which is SA 315. So first let us understand each and every one with example. Okay. Let's say a very easy example for higher Roman is related party transactions. Hmm. Now tell me, when we audit related party transactions, or when we hear that there is a related party transaction, always and always we assess that there is a higher risk because why? Because there are possibilities that the transaction will not be in the normal course of business, right? It will not be an arm's length transaction. There are also higher possibilities of fraud involved being there, right? So that's the reason always and always the related party transactions Roman will be higher or it will be significant. Mm. So when we say that these areas are inclusive, like they are higher Roman or they are with significant risk, and those may be, it could be considered as a key audit matter, and this could be most significant for the auditor during the audit. Okay, so number one is higher Roman. Number two is significant auditor's judgment is involved, plus significant management judgment is also involved. Simple example is accounting estimate, or we can also say an example of contingent liability. Let's say, okay, there is a case law, and there are possibilities that the company could get an amount. I mean, the amount of exposure that they have is 50 lakhs. Hmm? And this 50 lakhs is determined based on the judgment only, right? There are possibilities that the management would judge, of course, we will win the case. So let us not have any contingent liability and let it be nil. And there could be possibilities that we can have 50-50 percentage, so we'll take 25 lakhs. So here, the management also involves significant judgment. Hmm? And as auditors, we are also taking on the significant auditor judgment, right? So that's why these areas could be more significant. And then lastly, it is effect of significant transactions and events. Okay, let's say for example, we have a new branch being opened by PK Limited in foreign. Okay, let's say PK Limited is an India company, and now they're opening another a branch in US. Hmm. Since this is the very first time it is opening a branch in US, and immediately, okay, there was a huge transactions in this US branch. In that case, tell me, this is a significant event, right? Mm. And also, since it's a foreign branch, we'll have all these foreign exchange transactions, foreign exchange rates, and all these stuffs we'll have, which would be new to PK Limited since it hasn't got any foreign exchange transactions or any such events earlier. So, this could be a more significant matter or more significant area for the auditor during the audit. Okay, so when we say that we are going to determine KAM, those will be determined from the matters that are communicated with. Yes, PCWG. That is number one. And then moving on, when we consider that these are the matters are more significant, we will take these three into considerations. Number one is higher Romum. Number two is significant auditor's judgment is also involved. And in that, significant management judgment is also involved. It could be examples of accounting estimates, contingent liabilities, and all these stuffs. And then the very last one is effect of significant transactions and events. Can we move forward? Is there any doubt? Okay. Now, coming to, so objective, what are the two objectives? Number one is determining KAM, which we have covered now, right? Number two is we have to describe them in audit report, right? Hmm. So, how this should be included in audit report will be the very next question. Firstly, what should be the heading? You've already discussed this in SA 700. Please tell me. Yes, key audit matter. This is the heading. Good. Now coming to, let's say, we're just including this key audit matter as auditors, okay? And we're not saying what this key audit matters mean. Then say me whether a person that is a user of FS, when they see this key audit matter, will they be able to understand, okay, this is what is key audit matter? No, right? So what we're doing is we're going to include an introduction para. Hmm? And in that introduction para, we are going to say, number one, we are going to explain KAM. Okay. And number two, we are going to say that these matters are addressed only in the context of audit of FS. Okay. So in other cases, let me say, maybe we can just take an example. Okay. Mm, mm. This is the key audit matter. So here, this is one of the companies which has presented per Indies, which you will learn maybe for those who are doing your final, you are learning now, and for those who are going to do, who are doing your inter, you will learn in your final exams. Okay. So this is with respect to revenue. And here, the auditor has given that with respect to revenue from contract with customers, that is revenue, he has found some key audit matter, that is which was more significant in his audit, and hence he has included that. Now tell me whether the auditor is providing opinion on revenue segment alone separately or on FS as a whole. FS as a whole, right? So what we are saying here is that these matters are addressed only in the context of audit of the FS as a whole. And for forming the opinion for FS as a whole or for separate matters? For FS as a whole. Okay. And lastly, we are saying that we are not giving opinion on the separate matters. So we are not providing a separate opinion. Okay, so heading is key audit matter, and then we are giving an introductory paragraph so that the users of FS would understand what are we including here. We are explaining KAM, and then we are saying that these matters are addressed only in the context of FS as a whole and for forming the opinion on the FS. And lastly, we are saying that we are not providing separate opinion on these matters. You can see here. Now see here, key audit matters or those matters in our professional judgment were of most significant in our audit of the standalone FS of the current period. So we're explaining here, right, what are the key audit matter mean? And then these matters were addressed in the context of our audit of the standalone FS as a whole and in forming our opinion thereon. And we do not provide a separate opinion on these matters, right? So this is the introductory para. And now coming to what, one second. What has to be included in the description of KAM? Let us first see that example. Now see here, what are we saying? We are stating that this is the key audit matter, right? We are stating which is the key audit matter. So number one, state the key audit matter. Number two, here you can see here, they are saying that the application of this revenue accounting standard involves certain key judgments in relating to the certain accounting provisions which are included in the presentation of balances in the financial statements, and estimated efforts critical estimate to determine revenue as it requires consideration of progress of the contract efforts incurred till date, efforts required to complete the remaining performance obligation. So what we are saying here, we are saying that why this matter is considered as key audit matter. We are explaining. We are explaining here that this revenue accounting standard involves key judgments, and hence this has been considered as a key audit matter. Okay. And then as you can see here in the auditor's response, what are we stating here? We are saying that how as auditors we address this in the audit, right? And lastly, in case if there's going to be any disclosures, then we have to provide the disclosure. That is, we are going to provide the reference to the related disclosure. See here, refer note 39 to the standalone FS. So now tell me what are we including in the description? Number one, yep, we are stating the matter. Number two, we are explaining why was the matter considered as KAM. Good. And third one, we are saying that audit procedures, how the matters are addressed in audit. That is our audit procedures. And lastly, we are also including references to disclosures, if any. Okay. Is this understandable? Please ping in the comment section if there's going to be any doubts. Can we move forward, everyone? Okay. Now, I'll just ask one question. Now tell me, for which entities the key audit matter is mandatory? Listed entities, right? Now, in listed entities, let's say the auditor has identified that there is no key audit matter. Hmm? He is not a, there is no key audit matter in his audit professional judgment. Then in that case, there will be a doubt, right? Because here we are including this key audit matter and we are explaining all this. Hmm? But in case if for listed entities audit, which is mandatory because key audit matter is mandatory only for listed entities audit. In that case, if the auditor has identified there is no key audit matter, come to a conclusion that there is no key audit matter, then for sure he must include this heading key audit matter. And he must also say that we haven't identified any. Let me just show you how the same will be. See here. Key audit matters or those matters in our professional judgment were of more significant the audit of the FS. We have determined that there are no key audit matters to communicate in our report. Okay, because if we are not going to include this and the users of FS, let's say someone who's well versed in the content of the audit report, they'll have this question, right? Why this key audit matter is not included? Is it like an error that they haven't included? Or is it like there was no key audit matter only? So there will be this confusion and there'll be no clarity. And hence, in case of listed entities audit, that is for those entities for which it is mandatory to include key audit matter in the audit report, we have to say that we have determined that there are no key audit matters to communicate in our report. So there will be no ambiguity at all. Okay. Mm. Can you move forward? And lastly, when we are going to include that these are the matters we are going to include in the key audit matter, or we are going to include that we have determined there is no key audit matters, then all these has to be communicated with TCWG. Okay, because these are being included in the audit report, right? It's similar to how we have already discussed in SA 705, where we say that in case of modification of opinion, we will communicate with TCWG the reasons and also the wordings of the modified opinion thereof, right? Similar to that, for key audit matter also, we will communicate which are the matters that are going to be reported as KAM, number one. And in case if you are going to determine that there is no key audit matter, then we have to communicate the same to TCWG. And one last thing, just this is the very conclusion. Now, tell me, let's say you are auditing PK Limited. Mm, And in PK Limited, you have identified that, let's say, PK Limited is a company which is dealing with the manufacturing of mobile phones. Mm, Let's say we have mobile phone X, mobile phone Y. X is the old model, Y is the new model. Mm, Since this new model has come, the old model, it's normal, right? The old model, will it be sold very easily, similar to how the new model is being sold? There are times when this become completely obsolete also, right? So hence, what when the audit was going on, what the auditor noticed is that the old as well as new, both these models are being valued at cost. But tell me, what does AS2 tell us? It should be cost or NRV, whichever is lower. Hmm. And auditors confirmed that with the, let's say, the prior sales, which all happened, and also the subsequent sales after 31st March 2025 or the end of the financial state, what is identified that the whole model is sold at a price which is much lower than the cost. Hmm? And when we see the differences, it is above materiality. Now, in that case, tell me, can I say that this is something very significant to my audit? Hmm? This is very significant as auditor to my audit. So I'm going to include this in KAM only, and I'm not going to include in modified opinion. I'm not going to give a modified opinion. Is this acceptable? No, right? Because I've already said in the introduction itself. What did I tell? Key audit matters are not something like we are saying that there is a error, nothing as such, but rather we are communicating to the users of FS that these are the matters which were more significant in my audit. So I'm communicating these to you because the audit report could be very transparent, and you can also understand that these are the areas which involved a huge judgment, significant judgment, and all these steps. But here it is not appropriate, right? So what we are saying is key audit matter mm, is not a substitute for modified opinion. Okay, this is number one. Number two is we have learned about going concern, right? Essay. Essay 570. And if you can remember, we have also learned about material uncertainty on going concern, MU on GC. And MU on GC specifically, we have also learned in Essay 700. Hmm. So, in that case, can I say that I'm including this in key audit matter and I'm not going to include the material uncertainty on going concern para in audit report? No, right? Because MU1 GC para has been specifically being included in the audit report so that we can bring the attention of the user specifically to anything which is going to affect the going concern. That's the reason why we have material uncertainty on going concern. And in case, let's say the key audit matter, let's say we have around 10 key audit matters which we have determined. And the key audit matters itself will go on to pages and pages, and there are possibilities that the users of FS could miss this MU1 GC. Hence, always and always, if there's going to be a material uncertainty on going concern, then that should be included only under the heading. That is, it should be reported only under the heading material uncertainty on going concern. And lastly, let's say we have the per the schedule 3, we need to include all the significant accounting policies, right? Shall I say that I'm including all these in KAM, so you please don't disclose in your FS? Shall I say that to the management? No, because FS has to include all these disclosures which are required per Schedule 3 of the Companies Act, or let's say per the other laws and regulation, if any. So, key audit matter is also not a substitute to the disclosure. Okay, and we have already discussed this. Are we providing a separate opinion on these matters specifically? Let's say we have 10 key audit matters. Then am I providing the audit report for each key audit matter separately? No, we are providing key audit matter in the context of FS as a whole. And we are also providing opinion on FS as a whole. So we are not providing any separate opinion. Okay. So with that, we are done with key audit matter. I hope all of you can understand key audit matter very well. So before we are ending our session today, maybe we can just go through the notes quickly. So what did we learn? Essay. 701, communicating key audit matter. So what are key audit matters? Those are matters in auditor's professional that judgment are most significant in the audit. And these are selected from matters communicated with TCWG SA 260. An objective is to determine KAM and communicate those matters by describing them in audit report. And the purpose is because we are going to enhance the communicating value, and also by providing greater transparency, it also helps the users to understand in auditor's professional judgment that are more significant, the entity, and also the areas of significant management judgment. And we have already discussed this that it is applicable mandatorily to listed entities. And in other cases, if there's going to be a circumstance which auditor decides, of course, I need to communicate to KAM, then of course you can do. And if it is required by law and regulation. But it is never ever applicable for disclaimer of opinion. Now coming to, we have two objectives. One is we have to determine KAM and the other one is communicating these matters. So we are going to discuss how are we going to determine KAM, which we have already discussed that we can determine KAM, that is it should be determined KAM from the matters communicated with TCWG, and these matters are those that require significant auditor attention. And the following shall be taken into account, which we have already learned: areas of high ROMM, example, related party entities, right? And then significant auditor's judgment, which also included significant management judgment. Example, the contingent liability example, which we have discussed. And lastly, significant event or transactions. Example, that foreign branch. Now, coming to the second part of the objective, is communicating KAM. We have this headline. which heading, which is key audit matter, and we have already discussed this in SA 700 also. Now, coming to the intro, we'll just explain KAM. We'll say that these matters are addressed only in the context of audit of FS as a whole and then forming opinion, but we never provide a separate opinion on these matters. Okay, and coming to description of KAM, we say that we describe the KAM, that is, we'll state the matter, right? And then we will say why the matter was considered as KAM, how the matter was addressed in audit, and lastly, we'll give reference to related disclosures. And importantly, even if there is no KAM for listed entities also, we will communicate. We will include in the element of KAM that there is no KAM to communicate, which we have seen in that snippet. Now, coming to communication with TCWG, we'll communicate the matters which are determined as KAM, and also in case if the audit is determined there are no KAM also, I'll communicate with TCWG. And finally, KAM is not a substitute for disclosure, which is required per AFRF or to achieve the fair presentation framework. And secondly, it is not a substitute for modified opinion and also MU on GC. And lastly, a separate opinion we are not giving for any of these individual matters. So with that, we are done with SA 701 key audit matter. And students usually confuse key audit matters, emphasis of matter, and other opinion, which we are going to deal in our next session. Okay, so you will completely learn SA 706 emphasis of matter and other matter para in our next session, and we'll also see examples so that we can understand which is key audit matter, which is emphasis, and which is also other matter para. So with that, we are done with today's session. Please take care, everyone. As I always say, trust the process. You can do it. And for sure, whichever exam you're preparing as of now, whether you're going to write in September 2026 or November 2026, or let's say Jan 2027, for sure, that exam is yours. That exam is ours. Please remember that and never ever forget that. Okay. So with that, bye bye.